ideas. So you can do that in setting up a musical space as well as, you know, any other kind of space. And so
Yes.
the more harmonious, the more conducive to conscious development, I think the more meaningful the music will be for everyone.
Yes. And this is more than just the acoustic properties of the music, right? It's the whole ambience, right?
Yeah,
The whole
and
ambience
like I
is
said, the audience contributes a very, very subtle kind of sparkle to a performance, because when the audience feels alive,
Yes.
then that transmission of aliveness animates the music as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
I'll give you an example of one concert that I was at. I have many. I have a few very good set of examples, but let's say I was in Salt Lake, and it was the first time I'd heard Shiv Kumar Sharma, who is a fantastic santoor player. It's dulcimer, but he's taken it to the concert level. And he had Zakir Hussain on tabla, so one of the great tabla players and the greatest santoor player in the world. I'd never heard of him, which is sad at that time, but so happy. And so I was there with this audience, and there were good number of people. And this music became more and more subtle, and the drumming and the stringed instrument were in perfect resonance with each other. I mean, they were just having a ball together, just having great fun. But it was fun that was like unifying them, and you could see it. I could tangibly see it, that the two musicians became welded. And there was that tambura player too, you know, the drone, picking out the notes of the raga. You know, that establishes it, and then it ends it. It's the first and the last thing you hear. And so, but these two were just, all three of them actually were just
in the zone, as they say.
They were more than in the zone. They were unified, and you could see it energetically. It was just like, you know, the stage was just vibrating with pulsating with light.
Yeah.
And when they finished, and you know, it starts off very free form, and then establishes a rhythmic pattern, and then it just turns into a crescendo that just explodes at the end of it. And I was right in the middle of the audience, like the same number of people behind me, to the side and the front. And so, and then when that happened, the end of it, and when they hit the final note, there was just this scream. I mean, literally, I've never heard this, but like there was this scream from every direction, just from the being that said, yes, that's what I've wanted. This is what we've been wanting all our lives, to hear this kind of music. And it was so obvious. It was so obvious that something more than just entertainment had happened. You know, that there was something that had been touched at the very deepest level of the being, and that it responded in the only way it could. You know, it screamed its appreciation. And I have to say that's what I'm talking about. When you're talking about that level of obligation, that level of mastery, not just of the instrument, but of oneself. I mean, it takes someone who's mastered themselves, that level to be able to be of service that way. And that's what it's about. It's to be able to be of service, because when you get to that level of mastery, all you want to do is serve everyone else. You want to give it away, because you're constantly being given more than you need.
Yes, you want to share it with others.
Exactly, you want to share it with everyone. It's like a reciprocal giving, which
circulates.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. And when that happens, you know, it's not ending. It's not a. There's no end in sight to that.
Yeah, it's a continuous circulation of energy.
Yeah, but it's infinite transformation. It's infinite transcendence. It doesn't have. It's not boring. That's for sure. When people say, you know, perfection is, you know, boring, and now things are perfect. Perfection never ends.
True.
And that's the thing. I mean, and it's not about just being smiling all the time, being smiley all the time, and, you know, happy. It's got to do with transcending any kind of limitation, and, you know, whatever that might be. I mean, we're talking about going beyond one.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about going into the zero infinity realm, where you're just into zero, and an infinity of those, and how deep can you go into absolute nothing, if you will, but at the same time, the fullness
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
Am I getting a little bit too deep?
No, that's very good.
So, I mean, that's what I'm talking about when we're talking about conscious music, and I've had the great privilege, the very great privilege of meeting more than just one or two of these beings, and I'm so grateful,
Yes.
beyond any kind of way of conveying it, how wonderful that is, that these human beings, if these beings have demonstrated what it is to really be human, and to really give everything you can, and not be concerned about being receiving anything in return.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of Gurdjieff's students mentioned that he would play the handheld harmonium,
Yes.
play the simplest of notes,
Yes.
and they would start crying. The simplest of notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's not in the implementation, but it's in the presence.
That's right. And the way he played it with so much feeling and depth of being.
Exactly.
That was transmitted through the
Well, I
music.
think that was Gurdjieff's great gift.
Mhm.
Was not so much, maybe technically he wasn't a great player, but his presence
Mhm.
transcended all that. And I feel that is the story that's told by everyone who's doing that kind of work.
Yes, yes. To change topics slightly, you and Deborah, your wife, and
Yes.
Lubomir Melnik have been giving a series of wonderful concerts.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
I'm wondering how you met Lubomir.
Interesting. Well, there are no accidents as far as I'm concerned.
Uh-huh.
And we met Lubomir Melnik about almost 4 years ago now. And we had just heard that he was giving a recital at the Art Gallery Theater, the local Art Gallery Theater here. And was of the things that were written, that he was an innovator, that he was a musician of a totally different order
Yes.
of playing. And so I was interested, and Deborah and I both went, and some of our friends went as well. And what I heard was someone who was definitely in that stream of work, that he had on his own come to the same realizations as many of these conscious musicians, that he had developed his own musical work along lines of the Tai Chi, and then coincidentally had also many similarities in terms of his thought to P.D. Ouspensky, who happened to be connected to Gurdjieff, now that you mention him. But also he's taken it far beyond what has previously been done in terms of the music and the musicality of the instrument of piano itself. And not dissimilarly to Deborah Judith, who also has been working in her own way, trying to develop her music with conscious intention always, and with a conscious effect.
Yeah.
And so when we did finally meet him after the concert, we invited him to our space, our studio space, which is where we're doing this from, and since then he's performed quite a few concerts now, I think 4 or 5.
Yes, and you made DVDs of most of them?
Yeah, we made CDs, and there will be a DVD of the last concert, and only able to say that the music that Lubomir Melnik and Deborah Judith do together is a very complementary form of work, and I think from the impact it's had on audiences that have attended these performances, I think it's a very, very positive sort of work that definitely points toward conscious work. I think their intention is always to be as conscious as possible, and to evoke that in the audience, in the listener, and I think they're succeeding, and I'm hoping that they continue to do it.
Well, as a member of their audience for a number of concerts, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah,
It's just a wonderful collaboration.
I am so grateful, because being also the technical recording engineer guy, you don't always get to, like embrace the totality of the music that's being experienced by the audience. But every time I've walked into the room after the performance is over, I have definitely seen this look on people's faces that something beneficial has happened, and it's not just in a sense of I enjoyed myself, but something a lot deeper. And I think their work together is an unfolding kind of miracle, actually.
Yes.
I'm so happy that these two have finally gotten together and that their work is developing as it is, and I hope it continues in the future.
Now, he sometimes calls his music continuous music.
Yes.
What exactly does he mean by that?
Well, continuous music is exactly that. I think it derives originally kind of from the Harry Partch and maybe Philip Glass, but not quite. Philip Glass does repetitious music, but by no means to the level that Lubomir Melnik takes it. I mean, Lubomir Melnik is considered by some to be the fastest pianist in the world, the fastest. I mean, that means number of notes per minute and number of notes per hour. I mean, literally, it's unthinkable how much he puts into a performance. But basically, the continuous music is that. It doesn't have breaks. It continues on, and it keeps building. And you need to have super speeds sometimes to create the effects that Lubomir does.
Yes.
And when you do that, I said the same thing being tried by Zakir Hussain, the great tabla player, where he was going so fast that he was trying to generate overtones from his drumming. And it's the same thing, but with a piano, with a polyphonic instrument like piano, the possibilities are infinite, literally infinite, in terms of how the primary notes combine with the harmonics, the undertones, the overtones, the beat changes, everything. And after a while, you begin to hear things that are not being played on the piano.
Yes.
You begin to hear rhythms, you begin to hear orchestral stuff, you begin to hear organs, you begin to hear all sorts of strange, instruments that aren't present, but are coming out of the combination of all the notes being played together. There are, and continuous music, although it seems to repeat, actually doesn't. The patterns are repeated, but they are actually subtly changing all the time. And then there are also discontinuities introduced into it.
Yes.
You might say intentional shocks that basically don't really seem to be doing anything to the primary melody. But in terms of harmonics, it may basically extend a series of harmonics into another level by introducing a discontinuity in the primary, how can I put it, meetings,
Yes.
where the primary notes meet and one sounds a bit discordant or off time. That may, that's just that at this level, but at another level, there's a set of harmonics being created, level 2, let's say, where the harmonics are going to develop to a certain degree and then they're going to repeat. Whereas if you introduce a discontinuity, then the harmonics will then jump up, and they may jump to another set of harmonics because of that, and it'll allow them to extend even further. It's like creating a greater arc through a discontinuity.
Yes.
It's a break in the symmetry, in the magnetic symmetry, but not a break in the progression,
Right.
in the conscious progression. And so this kind of music is not at all disinteresting or boring in any context. It sounds like there's a repetition, but actually it's a continuous progression to a higher and higher level of harmonic integrity,
Yes.
reaching further into the unknown of the musical realm.
Yes. I noticed the